This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media and the Rule Classroom, sponsors of the 2025 Rule Natural Resources Investment Symposium, July 7 through 11 in Boca Raton, Florida, or via live stream in the comfort and convenience of your own home. A couple things you need to know about the conference, irrespective of how you choose to attend. The first is that we'll be giving you over 50 hours of concentrated and valuable programming. More programming than you can possibly absorb in the 4 days that we give it to you. The consequence of that is that we are recording the entire proceedings, and you'll have access to them, whether you attend live or via live stream, for a year. And you'll need that access because, as I say, we're going to give you way more information than you could absorb in the time that we give it to you. The second thing that you need to know is because we're going to give you so much information, we are interviewing every speaker and every exhibitor who will be at the conference before the conference so that you have the opportunity to study the material at the conference and utilize your time and your financial resources at the conference more efficiently. You also need to know that unlike any other investment conference on the planet, every exhibitor has been vetted to the extent that I own shares in all of the exhibitors, including the upcoming one. This is important, not because every share I buy goes up. That doesn't happen. Importantly, because unlike any other investment conference on the planet, every single exhibitor at this conference has been vetted. Nobody else that I know of does that. Because of this, I'm able to make you an extraordinary offer. That is this, as an attendee, whether you attend live or via live stream, if you don't think you got your money's worth out of the conference, you have an absolute solid gold money back guarantee. If for any reason you don't think that we've earned your price of admission, we will refund you your price of admission. Again, no other conference on the planet does this. So, further to the process, in the interviews today, I have John Florek from Emperor Metals. Shout out to my former colleagues at SCP and also to Maurice Jackson for flagging Emperor and bringing it to my attention. John, first of all, thank you for a lifetime of work for mining industry investors. Thank you particularly for your sponsorship and appearance at the Natural Resources Investment Symposium.
Yeah, my honor. Good to see you again, Rick.
Pleasure to be with you. John, tell our audience something about your past and why they should care about your answers to the upcoming nosy questions.
So, excuse me. My name is John Florek. I'm president and CEO of Emperor Metals, but I'm also a geologist. So I spent about 35 years in the industry. The first half was in exploration. The subsequent half was in production, both underground and open pit. I worked for companies such as BHP, Placer Dome, Barrick, Teck. Most recently, I was up at Detour Lake Gold. I was the chief geologist up there. We subsequently sold that to Kirkland Lake, and then Agnico Eagle acquired that asset. So I worked for all three of those companies as well. So I have a unique experience, of basically looking at it from these projects from two perspectives, both exploration and production.
Important, too, that you have major company experience, which taught you to look for something big, and you've worked for the small company. So you've been through the trials and travails all the way from grassroots through production. That's a great background.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's get to it. People from more than 30 countries will be viewing this video and coming to the conference. While you and I are familiar with that wonderful mineral endowment in Ontario and Quebec called the Abitibi, they might not be. So talk to me about the Abitibi and talk to me about why you chose to be exploring there. It sounds like through most of your career.
Yeah, I did a lot of my career in the region, in the Superior Province, not just within the southern Abitibi, but also up in Red Lake and some of the other sub-provinces. And we chose this because it's a unique area, because like 75% or more of the gold has come out of this area. The president CEO of Agnico Eagle even said, they're exploring, this is an Agnico Eagle camp basically, and they're exploring it because, it's not Nevada, it's bigger. That's his comment. So we love the district because there's so many synergies in the district. There's a lot of different companies that have got their start here and have eventually become major players in the industry. So one of the reasons why we chose this as a junior explorer to pick up properties in this district is because we saw, the opportunity for having a deposit and using it as basically a satellite for supplemental feed to existing infrastructure. There's a lot of mills in the region that are under capacity and they need mill feed. So this would save us a lot of money when we prove up these deposits and CapEx expenditures. And we all know the runaway cost with CapEx expenditures. It's $500 million, they end up being $1 billion. We wouldn't have those costs because we wouldn't have to build a mill, we wouldn't have to build a tailings dam. We can just truck it to existing infrastructure. So that's one of the attractiveness of being in the Abitibi where we are. It's a tier 1 district. That means over 5 million ounces of gold, and there's multiple deposits like this. Some exceed in 25 million ounces of gold.
So let's talk now about your two focus assets. As my memory serves me, they're both on the Quebec side of the Quebec-Ontario line. Talk to me about the two deposits and talk to me about them both in terms of their existing endowment and what you see as the possibility or probability of resource and reserve addition. In other words, what do we have and what might we get?
Yeah, sure. So we have two projects. One's called Dukane West, and the other one we just picked up recently, last couple of months, called Lac Pelletier. And we'll talk about Dukane West first. So like you said, they're both in Quebec. They're in the Rouyn-Noranda camp. So it's just across the border from the Ontario side. Dukane West is really interesting because it has a historical mineral resource of 727,000 ounces of gold with an average grade of 5.7 grams per ton. With what we liked about it was the average thickness was over 5 meters as well. So that showed a nice robustness to the system. And when we first looked at it, it was discovered in the 1940s, and it was basically identified as basically an underground type mineralized system. So you'd mine it from the underground. We like the thickness. You need at least 2.5 meters to mine underground. And we saw the ability to grow this to several million ounces from 1 kilometer to surface, knowing full well that below 1 kilometer, a lot of these deposits keep going down to up to 3 kilometers. So we could maybe 2x it and 3x it once we proved up 1 million or 2 ounces from 1 kilometer surface. In our inaugural drilling at Dukane West, we were the only company to sample the whole drill core length. And we saw that the host rock of these high-grade lenses also contained gold. So we had our eureka moment. We saw and envisioned and put a conceptual open pit above this high-grade gold. So now we have this conceptual open pit above a high-grade gold deposit. And we're trying to build, as we all know, you can mine a lot lower grade in an open pit, so we can build ounces more rapidly for the investor. And right now, the dimensions of this conceptual open pit is 1.8 kilometers long by 800 meters wide, down to a depth of 400 meters. And we even see indications that we can extend that strike length by an additional 1 kilometer. So we're going to publish in May our maiden mineral resource update. So probably near the end of May, it's already been announced that we, engaged Apex Geoscience to do the independent MMRE for this deposit. The second deposit, Lac Pelletier, is really, really exciting. It's basically an underground gold deposit that was ready to go into production, but it quickly became an orphan back in 2010. So it has basically 227,000 ounces of gold on the books in all categories. We modeled it internally. We see that we can double it quite quickly, potentially. And what's unique about it is that about $70 million have been spent on this property. They did a scoping study, a pre-feasibility study, a feasibility study. They did a bulk sample. Bulk sample was 96% recovery with an average grade of 4.35 grams per ton. So that was really, really exciting. And so we're excited about Lac Pelletier because it also has a mining permit in place that doesn't expire until 2030. So we want to try to fast track this and put it into production. There's 3.3 kilometers underground development there. So basically we just dewater it, rehab it, and then basically, fulfill some of the other regulatory requirements needed to put this into production.
So let's do this backwards for our audience. Lac Pelletier, the new acquisition, fairly small initial reserve, but in good condition, 200,000 ounces. You see it going to 400,000 or 500,000 ounces, conceptually beyond that. Is there nearby infrastructure, as you had suggested earlier, that will allow you to just mine the ore as opposed to having to go through the aggravation of building a mill and all that sort of processing?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of mills in the area. So some of them are actually dormant. You can buy some mills. The other ones are along strike. Agnico Eagle's property, Wasamac, borders us. They have 3 million ounces that they've identified in all categories right now. And their plan is to use it as a satellite deposit for supplemental feed to feed their existing mills. So there's a lot of opportunity to explore along trend. Like West Dome has the Kena mine, and that's like only 40% capacity right now. So lots of opportunity to feed, other mid-tier producers as well. So, our vision is that we could quickly double it to 400 plus and put it on a path to over 1 million. And who knows, this deposit has not really been drilled below 300 meters. And we all know that the extent and depth of these type of deposits. So it's really exciting to even, we recently reached out to Rob McEwen. He, increased his equity stake back up to like 9.6% of the company.
It'll be important for our listeners to do some research on who Rob McEwen is, a legendary mining investor, particularly in the Abitibi. So that particular vote of confidence is an interesting vote of confidence. Let's go up to Dukane West now. From what I understand in terms of what you just told me, there's a 700,000 ounce resource that likely grows on strike. It likely also grows to depth. And conceptually, too, you have the ability perhaps to do what Sean Rusin was able to do at Malarctic, which is to say turn an underground high-grade deposit into a lower grade but much larger open pit deposit where you follow it underground and get the high grade later. Is that an accurate summary?
That's absolutely correct. We see this low-grade bulk tonnage above this high-grade underground gold deposit. So there's many ways of, dealing with it. You can mine the open pit and put a ramp at the bottom of the pit to get the underground opportunity after you mine the open pit, or you can do it simultaneously, put a shaft down and do the open pit and blend the ore for an existing mill. So a lot of opportunity there. And it's a really interesting place because in this segment, we basically straddle the Porcupine-Destor Fault, and it's the plumbing system that carried all this gold into the district in this part of the belt. And between us, First Mining, and Stellar, there's actually about 20 million undeveloped ounces. And in the middle of that is the Holloway mine owned by Agnico Eagle. They have a tailings dam and a mill. There's definitely a potential for consolidation here too. Gold prices hitting all new highs. There's a lot of undeveloped ounces, and there's a mill in the center of all that. So we're quite excited to have this opportunity, to showcase this deposit, which we will have our maiden mineral resource updated, at the end of May. So we're quite excited to see these numbers. I think the investment community will be excited because, the plan is we'll be breaking 1 million ounces. That'll get the institutions and some of the majors to look at us more closely. But like our one of our most recent press releases, within the open pit environment, we hit 21.7 meters of 35 grams per ton. So that's pretty exciting, because now we're looking at an open pit that could potentially even have, higher grades. I mean, the goal was originally 1.5 grams per ton open pit, but with intercepts like that, maybe this could ultimately be a 2 or 3 gram open pit.
John, to the extent that our attendees are interested in finding out more about Emperor Metals, who exactly do they contact, and how exactly do they contact this person?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, you can contact me directly. John Florek has my number on the website, and also my email. So you can contact me by email or phone. And also my business partner, Alex Horsley, investor relations, corporate development. He has his phone and his email. So you can contact either one of us if you have any questions. We're on the Canadian Security Exchange under the symbol AUOZ. So just reach out to us and we'd be happy. I talk to investors all the time. I call them up, they call me, no big deal.
Well, John, as I say, thank you for a lifetime of effort on behalf of natural resource investors, but thank you particularly for your sponsorship of the Natural Resource Investment Symposium. I look forward to hosting you in Boca Raton.
Thank you very much, Rick. I appreciate the invite.